All right, let's go ahead and get started here. We got alders all on here. So formally call this meeting to order of the Board of Appeals. We'll do roll call real quick. Tommy's here. We got Noel, my vice chair. Thanks, Noel, for being here. We got Miss Barb Dorf. We got Mr. Tom Hoy, and we have Mr. Stephen. Last name, say it for me.
Schuckert.
Schuckert. I would never have gotten that right. Okay, so we're all here. Corey's our alternate's not going to be here today. Before we get into some other things and some talking points, does anybody have any reason to abstain from any of the voting tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have to abstain from 22-019.
Okay, that was the same as last month too, correct?
It is, correct.
Okay, we still have a quorum, so that's fine. So it'll be a 4-person vote on that one with no alternate. Okay, anybody else? Okay, great. Did anybody speak to anybody regarding the variance requests that are on the agenda tonight?
We got an email. Does that count? We all got an email.
Right.
More than one.
I got permission
ahead,
from 22-027, the Bosch family, to go in their backyard and look at the property, but that's all I spoke with them about, was enough to get permission to walk back there and look.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody else? I received an email from the first one on the agenda, 22-019. I shared that with Stephanie. It was in line with a lot of the other emails we were receiving as a board as well, but I also received one individually, so I shared that back out. Anybody else being contacted by any of the applicants personally or talked to anybody? Okay, was anybody out to see any of the properties?
I was out to see them all.
Thank you, Ms. Dorf.
Tom,
you usually. Go ahead, Tom.
I was out on the first one, 019 previously, and I also visited 027. Both of them were from the street. I didn't go on the properties.
Great, thank you. Stephen, you were about to say something, I think?
Yeah, I went to them all except 019 because I wasn't going to vote on that one anyway, so.
Copy that. Anybody else? Okay, great. I think that's it. Let's go ahead and approve the agenda. I was going to suggest an edit, but I think based on the alders that are here. Alder Hutchinson, do you have another meeting that you have to get to in terms of time conflicts and such? So before we approve the agenda, we might need to reshuffle, or are you in a good spot for the meeting?
I'm fine, thank you.
Currently, you're listed number 4 on the agenda.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be speedy with this. Anybody have any adjustments to the agenda or comments on the agenda before we approve it? Otherwise, a motion.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, I will give a motion by Ms. Dorf for the approval and a second by Mr. Hoy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that's approved. And then the minutes we need to approve from last meeting. Any adjustments, changes that anybody saw on those that we need to get done? If not, motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Mr. Hoy. So I have a motion by Mr. Halverson and then a second by Mr. Hoy to approve the minutes from last month. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, a lot of the formality stuff. Okay, so before we get into the meeting, I always kind of like to just kind of set the table for those that might not have been to the board before. We're volunteers. We're not elected officials. This is a group of 5 people appointed by the mayor to be on this board, and we serve basically like think of it as like a court, right? So here we are, 5 people listening to an appeal, right? They want to go against the code of the city, and they want us to listen to their appeal and present a case. And we act as kind of like a judge and jury. We're the deciding force that decides whether or not, based on certain criteria, that this appeal should be heard. So just keep that in mind. We're all fellow citizens. We're giving up our time to be here. The reason why it's 5 is because we can all disagree, but it's a majority vote that takes it. So while we might have unanimous in our voting, we also might have a split vote or whatever. So it's not just one person making the decision here. Our goal is to listen to the case from the person appealing it. So if you are here appealing, please present your case when we call upon you. We will ask questions to you. We'll ask for comments from alders. We'll open the floor up to potentially people on the call who are maybe want to speak for it or speak against it. We will ask them for their thoughts as well. The biggest thing that we ask for is obviously decorum, nothing personal, stick to the facts of the case, no personal conjecture, no talking back and forth, speak to the board, treat it with the respect that you would have almost like a court, right? Where you're speaking to the judge rather than speaking to each other. If need be, we discussed this in our last meeting, we will add a clock to comments. Sometimes these go 3-4 hours, doesn't need to. So as a chair, I reserve the right to add a clock. If I need to cut someone off, don't take it as rude. It's just that we've heard what we need to hear, and I might cut you off or ask for to finish up, just because we need to be respectful of all of those that are on the call. When we make determinations, we're really going down a criteria. It's outlined in the agenda packet, but basically it's section 44-141. Basically, can this variance be, is it using the property as it's intended to be used? 1, 2, is the property itself restrict you, the design of the property restrict you from being able to fulfill that purpose or use the property with that intent? Is there hardship that is not self-imposed or economic only, right? So the hardship being that I can't comply with this because of A, B, C, and D, which goes back to everything else. And then obviously, does this, how this deter from the area or for the property surrounding it? And that's something we listen to the community on, or other businesses, other things like that. But the goal is to have a strong case from the person with the appeal presenting a case for all of those areas. And if it doesn't meet that, then we're most likely going to deny. So again, if you're on here to present an appeal, please keep that in mind. That is what we're listening. We'll ask questions for those ideas. And if we don't feel that it's presented in a strong way, we will probably deny. Okay, and that's how this whole process works. And I say all that because it's long-winded, but it hopefully sets the table for maybe some speedier process later on. So thank you for letting me kind of explain how and why we're here. Anybody have any questions or comments amongst the board, not the public, but anything else? We're good to go? All right. What we normally do here is, instead of opening and closing the floor and taking a vote on all of that for every agenda item, which is typical for process, what we do is we just open the floor for the remainder of the meeting. By doing that, we're allowing the public to speak. We will vote to close the floor if necessary, and then no more speaking, or else we have to maybe ask you to be removed. But we don't like to do that, so let's keep it civil, have a great conversation, let's work through it. So the motion to open the floor is in order.
So moved.
Thank you, Noel.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. All right, so we have a motion to open the floor. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opening the floor. Okay, floor is open for discussion. Let's dive in. And again, normally when we get to the first agenda item, we'll have Steph from the city, present the idea of the thing, and then we'll call on the applicant to kind of take us through that case that we're trying to make here. All right, floor is yours, Steph. Thank you. Agenda item 22-019.
Okay, so we had heard this at our last meeting. This was held over for discussion to see if we can get some more information from the applicant regarding more specifics on the dimensional information. So just a reminder, this is the property in question. They're looking to add a rear deck. They're looking to vary the rear yard setback. Previously, we had discussed like maybe 25 feet here, probably less other places. We didn't really have much information to go off, and I did not receive any additional applicant information. So I'm hoping that the applicant has more available for you all.
Okay, great. Any questions before we hear from the applicant to Steph from the board?
Can I
Okay.
ask something,
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
Chair?
Ms. Stork, go ahead.
So we received an email that might have been misinterpreted or perhaps not, but it certainly was a discussion point amongst some of the board members. At what point would we want to address that, or do we need to address that email at all? I just want to make sure that we don't miss that if that's something we need to talk about first.
Yeah, how do the rest of the board feel about that? Any thoughts? I don't have any pressing need to really address it. I think as part of this meeting, I think it's information that a lot of it that we received in the last meeting, you know, kind of rehashing some of that. Did you feel that there was something that you wanted to discuss or go over, Storr?
I wanted to, I feel that I can make a decision based on the facts as they're presented, and that although the email was distressing to me initially, as I chose to reread it again and think about it a little bit more, perhaps the author didn't mean it to be quite as pointed toward the members of this board as it perhaps seemed in the beginning. So I'm at rest with it. I like Noel's comments in his response to the email that Tom had sent out.
Yeah, I think there was some email back and forth that I thought, you know, again, I don't necessarily think we should get in the weeds with a lot of that stuff. I think it's important for everybody on the call to know we are, you know, a business owner, you know, retired people, ex-alder. We're all here as citizens, volunteering our time. You know, we are not elected. We're not voted in. We're appointed by the mayor. Anybody in the city can apply to be part of this board. And when there's an opening, you can serve an alternate, and then you can be on this board. That's how my process went. And I've been on the board for 3 years. Tom, how long have you been on the board?
Wow.
A while, right? Yeah. And Mr. Carlson, who just stepped down 2 months ago, I mean, he was on it for over 20 years, you know, so we're giving our time. We're here to try and listen to the community. We might not always agree. That's why we have guidelines. We have some certain trainings, and we do our best to make a decision as a consensus, right? And again, a 3-2 vote wins. So we don't always have to agree. We tend to sway certain ways, but getting in the weeds with some of the other stuff, I think, is a bit unnecessary. You know, we're here trying to make things better, you know, and that's it.
Thank you for making those points. That's exactly what I'd hoped would happen.
Yeah, I was somewhat trying to hint there at the beginning, but you know, a little bit deeper is good. But yeah, I mean, I've said it. So let's dive in. Who do we have presenting? I see Mr. Pavlik and Mr. Mattern. Who is speaking? Are you guys both presenting your case today?
They're muted.
We're muted right now, so we can't hear you.
Can't hear
Can you
you.
hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Like I was just saying, I just wanted to reiterate a few of the things I presented before. I want to put a single level deck on the back of my home that would be hickory cypress color with soft cable fencing that would be, you know, pretty much invisible with the foliage unless you're standing on the deck. I want to use this deck. One of the big reasons I didn't get a chance to mention in the last meetings, I have a 2.5-year-old son, and there's no really safe, usable space in my backyard. It's a pretty steep ravine. It's pretty wooded, and I think putting a deck on the back like this would give him the opportunity to have somewhere in the back to play that's a little safer than what's currently there now. I have a bit of a cement slab that's not very appealing, and I think a deck back there would be great for our family in that regard. After the last meeting, we took a lot of the concerns into play in terms of what we were doing with the deck. We've decreased the size of the deck 17%, so 120 square feet. So it went from 710 square feet to 590 square feet. The biggest thing is I want this as a safe space for my son to play on. I live at the end of the cul-de-sac. I'm sure many of you have seen, I have a kind of a sloped front yard that goes right into the court. And unfortunately, I have quite a few people that that come down the court and turn around at a higher rate of speed, then I'd like to see my 2.5-year-old son kind of out and playing around. So that's obviously the biggest thing. I don't have really anything other than that to kind of say about it. I think it's pretty straightforward. Phil has some of the dimensions and stuff, if you guys need any of that information in terms of where we are with the property line and what we're asking for in the variance.
It, with the measurements, last time it was a little bit gray and it was hard to see on that plot plan that we sent in. But we redrew it up. So there are 3 points where the deck would, intersect with that property line. The northeast point would be over 25 feet. The middle point would be around 8 feet. And then the far left point would be about 21 feet off of that property line, or close to that, without a survey. But we pulled string lines from where we thought there was a property marker, and then to the east or west, excuse me, where we thought that property line was marked by
Yes.
your neighbor,
Yes.
actually. So those are the 3 points. We did downsize the deck. So it's more than 25, and then the middle point is around 8, and then 21 feet. So that's where we're at with our numbers.
Okay. Thank you for that. Before we get to any additional comments, any questions for the applicant from the board members?
Is there anything available that the board could see to visualize actually what you're saying? Because it kind of seems like the property line is like this, and then you're kind of coming in with like a wedge to it.
Yeah, I have a drawing here. I was unable to get it submitted, but I have a drawing. I don't know if we can pull it up. I don't know if the lighting is gonna work.
Is that what we have in our board packet, Steph? That drawing?
You
Not
have-
that drawing. We have the old version, but it's a
Yeah.
simpler drawing. I can put one
Oh.
up just for reference. So you get an idea of the shape if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Are you seeing this?
Yes,
Yes.
we are. We're seeing the satellite view. Can you pull up the drawing? And then if the applicant,
It's
That's
upside
It's
down.
upside down.
that's okay. Well, we can
Yeah.
visualize it. So if you don't mind, the applicant can, there you go.
Cool.
If you could, Steph, actually, if you could angle it slightly, so the diagonal portion on the left side is almost straight. That would, I think, actually represent where they're trying to build it on the property. So if you could just twist it to the right a little bit.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
just like
That's
that.
kind of how it's going to go right there. Yeah. Okay. So if I would like the applicant to kind of walk us through, if this is the old drawing and you said you reduced it, if you could take us through where you shrunk some areas, I think that would be helpful to me.
So so that far point is still 25 feet or more, it's more than 25, excuse me, to the property line. Then what we did is to the far left, we shrunk that down to 3 feet instead of 6 feet. And we got rid of the triangle that adjoins where it comes out 25 feet from the house where you would see living room. And we moved that down to 3 feet as well. So there will be a gate on the far left and another gate, and then it'll basically be about 19 wide by about 25 deep to the house. So we shrunk it down quite a bit, and the middle point then would be about 8 feet to the property line, and then the far left would be about 21 feet to the line.
Okay. And so the closest it would be at that top point on this screen currently. Steph, you were up there early. That would be the closest to the property would be that corner.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's safe to say that in terms of me using my hand, that if this is what we're seeing on the screen, it went this way, shrunk this way. Is that,
Yes,
Correct.
yeah,
and a little bit this way?
yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, that crude, but just trying to get my
Yeah.
bearings. But okay,
Well done, Tommy.
yeah, hold on. It's over here. Yeah, anyway, okay. Okay, any other questions by the board members? Thanks, Steph. That was very creative of you.
Doing my best.
I did, twisting it. Okay. On that note, let's go ahead and touch base before we go to potentially other people. Alder Stevens, you want to speak now, or do you want to see if there's anybody else on the call that might want to voice a thought or two?
In favor of this, and it was out there. Behind his property, it's flat, but then it goes way, there's like a valley through there, so there's definitely no houses very close to him. But you can let everybody else speak, but I might need to leave here in about 10 minutes, so.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody else on the call that wants to speak for or against this proposal? If they are, go ahead and state your name for the record, name and address for the record. And just, is it Mary?
Marion Lynn, yeah.
Marion Lynn Hanson, 377 Swiss Hill Drive. Have you got us?
Did you get that? I was breaking up on my side. Did we get that for the notes? We're good. Okay, thanks, Steph. All right, go ahead. Mary.
Okay, I first of all, I did send an email to Stephanie. I'm sorry if it was misinterpreted at all as being derogatory toward the board.
It was not, it was not your email, just
Okay,
to
thank you.
make that clear.
I just, because we hadn't seen any of this and we haven't seen any of the modifications that we're speaking about here. But I did take a look at that first, the satellite picture. And I just looked at the 31 and some foot section against the house there, and I compared it to the distance from the house to the property line or supposed property line. And the red sketch, and it's been, I think it's Mr. Matern has said that it's more than 25 feet from the supposed line. And I really don't see it being that far away. Let me preface this by saying, we're not against anybody having a deck. We think it's great. You should have some place for your son or whatever. Our concern is that it's difficult to ascertain the distance from the property line when the property line has not been surveyed. Okay. And it seems that I built a 20 by 22 foot 2-stall garage. And so just for the heck of it, I was looking through the application form, and it had some alternates, like what could you do differently or whatever. And it said something about a smaller deck or maybe doing a survey. So I looked up just for kicks, 2.5 stall garage is listed as usually 24 by 26 feet. And that's like a square foot smaller than a 25 by 25. At the last meeting, it was the two things that concerned me. Number one, it said, they were talking about the size and it was indeterminate. The other thing was that the distance from the house at the furthest easternmost part, the right-hand side of the picture, as you look at it from the satellite picture, the deck that was drawn on there in red wasn't at all to scale. It said less than 25 feet from the property line. It's really my contention that it's a good deal closer than that. And again, I'm not against anybody having a deck or anything. I want to be sure that everything is done appropriately. And so I'm really advocating for some of the alternate there, for a smaller deck or a survey being done.
Well, and I would just like to add a little history. Mr. Pavlik's dad owned it. We moved here in 1990, and there's been confusion over this line several times. And part of that is because the previous owners of our property put a fence up to hold their dogs in. And I can see where that might be misconstrued as the property line, but it was not. And so it created some problems with trees being cut and that kind of stuff. And so we would like to be neighborly. We're not trying to be unneighborly. And that's why we think it's reasonable to have accurate facts as far as what the survey would mark so that there isn't any more confusion. And the setting a precedent without having clear numbers seems like it would just create a cumbersome or a difficult precedent. And so we would like to be neighborly, like Glenn said, we're not opposed to a deck, but we'd really like to be able to have a clear line that shows where it is in relation to the property line. At some point, we're going to sell this place. And we've talked to realtors and they said, no, that gets to be a gray area when you have a setback that's been varied without really even knowing exactly how much it is. So what we're really asking for is a survey line that if someone is using or is close to using or into somebody else's setback, it just seems reasonable that they would be willing to do that so that we would have a clear line and an accurate measurement.
Okay, any other
Question for-
comments or, hold on, any other comments or, hold on 1 second. Any other pieces of information that you'd like to add before we get to questions?
You're talking to us? The Hansons?
Correct, yep. Yeah, I just want
I
to make
guess-
sure we don't go, last time we had a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of discussion, and I want to stay to the facts. Is there any other pieces of information that you'd like us to be considering before
Well,
we
I was-
ask any questions?
I was reviewing the application. It said something about the setbacks being established later on. I kind of wish that Mr. Pavlik's father would have followed through. When we bought the place, he offered to purchase some of our lot. And we told him it would be fine, gave him a very reasonable price, and we just wanted him to do the survey and file all the paperwork and be responsible for that. And he elected not to do that. If they had another 10 or 15 or 20 feet added to their lot from ours at this point, this would have made this a whole lot easier. I just wish it would have happened 28 years ago.
Okay. I think that's good. Ms. Dorf, you had a question?
I do too, for Mary and the other person behind there.
Then-
Sure.
Are you willing at all to pay for the survey?
Why would we pay for a survey? We're not the ones who were building there.
Sorry, we couldn't hear you. I
We
couldn't
I
hear
said,
what his answer
why
was.
would we pay for the survey when we're not the ones asking for the variance?
So is that
But it
is
costs
that a
them-
no?
I guess that would be a no. I don't want to pay for his survey.
You were the ones
Okay.
asking for the survey. That's what the question I had for you.
No, let me be clear. That was one of the options presented on the application for the variance,
I
was
see.
to have a survey done. I wasn't requesting that.
Okay,
I'm saying that would be the most accurate way of knowing what the variance would entail.
And it would just eliminate the confusion that's been going on for 30 some years. And we don't want to have that as a neighbor thing.
I think what, and maybe I'm speaking on your behalf, but I think what Ms. Dorf is angling at is, it seems to me, based on what you're presenting to the board, is this has been something that's been causing some conflict amongst the two properties for a while. So if that's the case, would two neighbors be willing to either split the cost or do something together to try and resolve the ongoing issues? Currently, this is being an issue because they're trying to build, but in the past, it's also been an issue for other issues. So I think that's maybe what she's angling at. Is there a way for two neighbors to resolve this by, hey, let's get together, let's both do this to clear this up for both of us? Or is
Yeah, I
it only
understand.
on the applicant? Is it
Yeah.
only on the applicants because they're the currently ones that are trying to do it? I think that's probably what she's trying to get
Okay.
at.
I understand your question. I didn't see that as part of the application. That wasn't suggested.
But I think
Just-
that's not, I think that's why she's asking. So is the
Okay,
answer
then-
no, you're not willing to help with that?
A point of clarification, can the board change the application during this process of voting and so on? Or is it a yes or no thing? I'm not
don't
familiar
understand
with
your
how it
question.
No, we're able
Can
to,
you-
we're able to
can
make
you
a
read-
motion that is significantly at variance to your variance request if, that's what it comes down to, so.
I see. So the answer is, yeah, you can make a suggestion or do it amended something. Okay.
Yes. Okay, any other questions, Ms. Dorf?
No, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the group as Mary?
I do. Now,
Okay.
do they own the property directly behind?
We share the property line.
Yes, we are the ones that own the property right adjacent to where the proposed deck is.
Okay, because last time I thought I heard something about it being a recreational area. And I actually checked on that and the city said, no, this is privately owned.
No,
So you are the owners of that
Yes, we are.
parcel directly behind where they're asking for the variance, correct?
Yes, we are the owners.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, all right. Alder Stevens, since you said you had mentioned that you might want to hear from everybody else, do you have any other additional comments you want to offer?
I do not.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, I do not.
Okay, all right. All right, board members, let's go ahead and discuss this and see where we're at and see if we can maybe take a vote and move on with this one.
I have a question for Stephanie. 25-yard setback seems like, or a 25-foot setback seems pretty far. Is that unique to this area or standard City of Green Bay?
I think standard for residential lots in Green Bay, specifically the R1 district, that's going to have the most protective setback areas. With the idea that people want the larger lots with the larger setbacks from other homes versus like downtown or OR have different smaller setbacks, but still, you know, I live in an OR district and mine is 25 in my rear as well. So it's pretty standard for a setback.
Okay, thank you, Steph.
Thoughts, comments, board members?
Yeah, just to, Steph, if you could reiterate, we're talking about a setback variance as well as the specific area variance too here, right?
This is setback only. So this is encroachment within the 25-foot rear setback.
So, and the petitioner's telling us that they've gone from a 25, less than 25 to a 21 foot.
21 and then 8. So it would be 2 different points. So the most encroachment would be the 8 foot.
Oh, that also requires a 25-foot setback on the side?
Both of these are considered in the rear yard.
Both considered the rear, okay.
Was that it, Noel? Do you have any other thoughts on Ms. Dorf?
I appreciate it.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say I had missed this discussion at the previous meeting, and so I'm coming a little bit newer into this, so.
Yeah, thanks, Noel. Are you leaving, Mr. Alder Stevens?
Yep, I have to leave.
Hey, thank you for coming. We appreciate it when alders come and voice their thoughts and get involved in this process. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem, anytime.
Yep.
Bye now.
Ms. Dorf?
So I think we, pretty well established that you couldn't build a deck off because of the shape of the property, the unique shape of the property. It would encroach within that 25 feet almost no matter what. I do appreciate that the size of the deck was reduced because that's something that we requested that they look at last time, and they did. They looked at that and they did reduce the size. And so, as I was last time, I'm still inclined to approve this. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. I know, Mr. Hoy, if I might call upon you for a second. I didn't know if you felt you had some thoughts last time, if you felt that, the additional evidence and the additional time swayed you in a direction, one or the other, before we take a vote. Because I know I felt like on the fence a bit last time.
I think it's unfortunate we don't have a site plan. And going from a 25-foot setback to an 8-foot setback, I think goes beyond, I'd be willing to approve.
Okay. Stephen, do you have any other thoughts at all, comments?
I'm abstaining from this one, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Have I heard from everybody that's voting on this one? Noel, you're new, so I know you're getting it. Noel, we had this last month. It was a fairly lengthy debate. So I don't necessarily want to get in the weeds of all of that, but basically, I think you got the gist of it tonight. Is there any things that you need to be caught up on, or are you feeling a good spot to take a vote?
I think I understand the situation clearly and the configuration of the parcel and what's being requested. So, you know, I've got the report. I would have preferred to have maybe an updated drawing of what the deck looked like. I don't think I would hold up action for that. I'm hearing what the neighbors are saying, and I would be inclined to support a motion that included, you know, a survey of the property being, you know, conducted by the petitioner to ensure that we're not talking about a variance different or a setback that's different than what's being proposed here. But I don't know that I'll make that motion, as like I said, I'm Johnny come lately into this conversation, and so follow the lead of some of the other folks who maybe had the benefit of a longer discussion.
Yeah. I'll speak on the record. I'm inclined to approve. I think the unique properties of the lot is exactly what we're dealing with when people are trying to use their property and develop it. I think the slope, and I think that case in terms of being able to use your backyard and a slope that is basically takes that almost out of play. I love the fact that the petitioner heard the feedback in terms of reducing it, right? If there's an opportunity to reduce it and make the impact less, when people are willing to take that step, I think that shows an effort to try and get to the finish line. I don't know if there's ever a way with this property to be able to do something there that allows them to use that. And for me, that's why I'm inclined to vote to approve. It would be nice if there was a survey. I don't think we should get involved in between that unless the board feels that we should get that. I think when it comes back, it's going to end up being, you know, still needing a variance anyway, which we're still going to be in this exact same debate. I think the neighbors should work on cleaning that up together. And that would be my hope, is that at some point, it seems like it's an ongoing issue. They should probably work to get that done. If the applicant wants to do that, I think the neighbor's asking for it. Maybe they can work together on costs, but I don't want to get in the middle of all of that personally. That's my feeling on it, but that's why we're a board and we take votes and we talk as a group. So my word doesn't stand. So that's where I'm at. Any other thoughts, comments? Okay, if we're ready to take a vote, we can take a motion either way and take a vote.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, we got a motion by Ms. Dorff to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second for the sake of discussion here. I want to make sure that the motion is to the approval of the revised drawing that we didn't see, or the revised dimensions. And that, is that what you're approving, or are you approving the original request?
No, I would say that my motion intended to approve what was presented tonight with the reduced size of the deck and the drawing that we were vaguely able to see when it was held up. So it would be for what was presented to this afternoon.
That's a great little thing. So let's pause real quick, Noel. Thank you for bringing that up. Steph, you have not received that updated dimensions and everything?
No.
Okay, so I think it's really important that we get on this motion to approve the drawing that was submitted visually to the court, well, to the board here tonight, with a reduced size, new measurements, all of that stuff that we went over as a group, and that is what you're approving, not what we currently have. So that needs to be submitted to the record and get to staff, regardless of how this vote goes. Good, thank you, Noel. That was a great catch. Thank you. That's why you're a good vice chair. So are you still seconding that motion, Noel?
Yeah, I'm
okay. All right, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the variance with the updated drawing to reduce the deck size. Is there any further discussion on this before we take a vote? Okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor of approving the motion on the floor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, so we have a 3-1 vote with an abstaining vote as well. And that means the motion carries. So the variance is approved. It's really important, applicant, that you submit the updated drawings, go through that, work with the planning team, make sure everything's, working with them based on the variance. And again, good luck. I'd highly encourage, if the effort's there, you have neighbors that are asking for a survey, we're not getting in the middle of it, but we can always just facilitate dialogue and see where it goes. Okay.
We'll submit the revised plans tomorrow. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Please feel free to stay on the call if you'd like. If not, feel free to disconnect if you'd like. Thank you for your time, everybody
Thank
on the
you.
call.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, let's jump to number 2 here. We have appeal 22-021, Brittany Piper, Elevate 97, on behalf of Newfeld Enterprises 2 LLC, and they want to deviate from a sign ordinance.
Yes, this
Go
was
ahead.
another holdover from our last meeting. The applicant was not there and they don't appear to be here again tonight. It is just to have more than one freestanding sign per street frontage. So this is the location here, as you may be familiar, Goodwill, what used to be Toys R Us. I have no idea what's in it anymore. Very large strip center. This is becoming a very large commercial corridor with a lot of different moving pieces. So as you can see from this larger site plan, there are some new developments that are going in. But there are different parcels associated with that. So in order to get more coverage for the tenants of all the buildings, since this is under same ownership, they are looking to install an additional freestanding sign.
Yeah, this is one that we punted, like she said. So Noel, you weren't here, but we wanted to see if the applicant would show. And is there anybody on the call currently that Steph maybe missed that is here to present the case for this appeal? Okay, well, this is kind of an interesting thing. I'll defer to the group here. We can either punt again, to next month. I don't necessarily want to lead the witness here, but looking over this, I don't necessarily have an issue with this, looking over the application, hearing what Steph's proposing. So I'd be inclined to approve without a case based on the application. But again, if we want to, I am totally open also if the board would rather go through a process and have them come and present the case. So I'll leave that for discussion. What do we want to do here? I'll go with Ms. Dorff first.
I just agree with you, Tommy. That's all I need to say.
Okay, thanks. Tom, how do you feel about that?
I think they should make an appearance, and I'm curious as to why they're not. If it's set out within the guidelines of a variance request, why are they ignoring?
Yeah, it's interesting. Steph, were you able to reach out to them at all? And are you getting email responses from them?
We do most of our follow-up through letter mail, but I also have not heard from Brittany. We work with her on a variety of projects, and she has not followed up on this sign permit application to my knowledge. So I'm not.
Is it something that you're able to reach out to them, or that's not within your purview to say like, hey, we're not outbound, they can come to us, it's their notification?
I certainly can. Usually when something's on hold for this long, we reach out anyway to be like, hey, are you still interested in this? Like, what's the deal? So I can definitely do a what's the deal email and phone call. So if we want to do that.
Stephanie,
Is that the official title? What's the deal email?
That's the
That's
deal.
the sign.
Stephanie, would you
All right.
characterize your previous interactions with Elevate 97 and Ms. Piper to be, she's normally not like this?
She usually attends all the meetings we have with
Okay.
her. I guess I'm not sure.
That would change my mind, because I was of a mind to just disapprove this. That'll get their attention. But if we normally have a cordial relationship, then I would be inclined towards just kicking the can down the road. And if they don't show up next time, then I would vote to deny their variance.
We have another
no.
holdover from April, so like there's plenty of outreach to be done to, we're either going to cancel these applications or, get them moving. So
Okay. Noel, you get to be your favorite spot, kind of the swing here. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I'd prefer to hear from the petitioner, because if we've got questions, we don't have anybody to respond to those questions, really.
Okay.
I might look at this site and go, it sounds like a reasonable request, but really should have the entity that's making the request be here.
Okay.
I don't know that I just summarily deny a non-showing petitioner, but I've always kind of wanted to have them present when we make these calls. So
Yeah. Okay.
I would be in favor of, holding this again until next time.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and I'll entertain a motion then. It sounds like with a survey that it's a 3-2 punt to next month. So I'll take a motion if there's one out there to move it.
I so move to hold till next month.
Okay,
I'll second.
thank you. I have a motion to move this to next meeting, whether it's next month, but next meeting as agenda. By any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Okay, all right.
Maybe-
Thank you for the
maybe-
vote.
Maybe downstream, it's 3 strikes and you're out, Tommy. You know?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, true. I mean, we could do something like that. I don't think there's anything against that, but
I'm
I
I'm just
also
kind of
we're-
thinking that, I mean, if she's been, if she's been responsive in the past, if she's got a relationship with the city, maybe there's something personal going on there that we're unaware of. And
Yeah. Or maybe they've changed their mind, so approving something if they're not presenting is a great counsel. So I think we're also directing staff, if that's possible. Staff, it sounds like you're willing to send what's the deal email and check in, see where we're at.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Steph.
Thanks,
All right,
Steph.
let's move on. Number 3, appeal 22-027, Alex Cropsey on the behalf of Beth Boche. Property owner proposes a deck on the rear of the property. Steph, take it away.
Thank you. So this is another one in the R1 district. They are proposing to put a deck on the rear of the property. So as you can see on South Monroe, most of these are in there pretty tight. You can't really see to the backyard when you're in the front yard. Here's an idea of what that schematic would look like. They are not proposing any further encroachment. They're already 6 feet off with their building, but they should be 8 feet by our code. So they're already non-conforming with the building setback, probably based on our last code when it was allowed to be closer than that. So it won't be a further encroachment, but it does have that 6 foot instead of 8 foot. So it does require that variance. A photo of the backyard, if you were not able to get onto the property, this is the area that the deck is proposed, and a rendering of what it will look like visually. This is also in our historic district, so it'll be at our Landmarks Commission on Wednesday for approval as well.
Okay, thanks, Steph. Can you go back 2 slides? I actually had a question before we get into it. So on that property map there, with the encroachment there, I know these aren't exactly to scale or whatever it is, but the structure that's on the 16-76, that's not where they're building a deck, just north of it, yeah, right there. That looks like it's sitting on the property line. This has nothing to
It
do
sure
with.
is.
it is.
Right, but that has nothing to do with the 6 feet that we're talking about. We're just
Yeah.
talking from 6 feet to the property line. It just looks significantly closer because that structure is completely past the 8 foot.
Yes, which is
Okay,
really typical in the Astor Historic District. There are a lot that were just built right on lot lines. Lots were divided, kind of weird. So this isn't abnormal, but it doesn't take into account where that other building sits on the other property. It's 6 feet off your property line, 8 feet if you're
Okay.
2 stories.
and then just a point of clarification, you had mentioned that the building itself, so the deck's coming directly off the side of the building and the whole structure is inside that setback, correct?
Yes, so this, a house that's existing is at a 6 foot side setback. It should be at 8. So this
Okay.
is not a further encroachment. It's just continuing that same side setback line.
Okay, and then last question, is there any record of an appeal being approved in the past for the structure that's in the 16-76 or the building itself being approved to be in the setback that we should be aware of?
Nothing within modern times. I'm guessing this was a land division a billion years ago. That's probably how it
Okay.
happened. We see a lot of these.
Okay, great. Thank you for those clarifications for me. Any other points of clarification for Steph before we go to the applicant? Okay, is it Jason? Are you here to present? Is that correct?
I suppose so, because Alex isn't here, so I guess it's me.
Oh, okay, great. Are you okay to move forward and present your case?
Yes, and the last name is Book, by the way.
Oh, that wasn't even close. I always apologize as chair. I have the responsibility for pronouncing last names, and it's probably the one thing that should be taken away from me. I'm horrible at it, so I apologize every
You're not the
meeting.
first. It's okay.
All right, go ahead.
So just some more dimensions and such to try to help things out. Basically, our house to that garage that is shown on the picture that, Steph, do you prefer Steph? Okay, that Steph mentioned, from our house to the garage, it's 8 feet. Just put a tape to it currently. So if truly it is on that line, which I don't think it's been truly defined yet, the property line, we do have 8 feet between our house and the garage. And then there is I don't know if you can pull up that picture, Steph, that would be lovely, of the back view of the house. There is a deck board that runs right to the edge of the house. So currently, if we had to push that in, we would have to remove that deck board and basically put new siding there or somehow finish that area. So I don't know if there was a deck previously in that spot. I don't know that offhand because we bought the house, it was in this condition. Obviously, we will be putting some kind of deck in this space because right now that door is not usable because it is a 4-foot drop to rock. So yeah, I think that's about everything I can think of. If there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer anything that anybody has.
Okay. Thank you. Before I ask my questions, I'll go to my fellow board members. Is there any questions of the applicant before we go to potentially other comments?
No.
Noel, you're good. Tom, you good? Do you have any questions? I didn't hear Tom. Was that a no?
No, no
You're
questions.
good? Okay. Stephen, do you
No
have any
questions.
questions? Okay. Barb, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, I do. Sorry, guys. Question is the setbacks because of the other house. Steph, this is back to you. Because the other house and where this deck's going to go is going to sit up against that garage thing. Those setbacks are more for privacy perspectives. There's no safety concerns at this point in terms of being able to get through those properties, correct?
No, our building code takes care of that with the dimensional information between structures. So I think for sheds and garages, it's at minimum 3 feet, off of certain property lines. But this is just more privacy setbacks like we see in residential districts.
Okay, and then Jason, that answers the safety thing. Jason, were you able to reach out to your neighbor at all? Did the one where it's going to be closer to them with the garage? Did they vocalize any concerns, or have you touched base with them at all?
I haven't approached them. Obviously, they got the letter because they're within 100 feet of our property, and they haven't mentioned anything. We see them regularly. My son loves to hang out with their dog, so we see them. They have not approached me about anything. Of course, I can have that conversation, but as far as I know, that garage, they have a driveway that goes right up to it. They don't use the space behind it because there's behind their garage is actually like a stone pile that's full of weeds. So I'm not super concerned about them using that space, or visually, it wouldn't change much of what they see from their home. So I can certainly have that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, they did receive a letter, so their notification of this hearing. So I'm assuming before we move on, is there anyone on the call that is looking to speak for or against this application here? Okay. Just a point of feedback, so it's on the record for Jason. Just keep in mind that application, that 3-step test. When I read the agenda and I was going through the packet, the first question, you basically disqualified yourself by saying no there. And I was like, well, the case that he's making kind of says this, but he just answered the question. It kind of has to pass all 3 of those. And you said no. And I was like, do I take that? So anyway, just make sure, be careful. I think what we went through tonight takes care of it, but I thought I'd point that out because people watch these videos and it's really important for people to understand. We're looking for reasons why those 3 things exist all in concert for us to prove. And if one of them is a no, we shouldn't vote for it. So that was just a little point of clarification there.
What was the question, or what was the point? I guess I didn't write those 3 things down so that I can.
It's okay.
Okay.
Does the unique characteristics of the property prevent you?
Sure.
And the idea is, yes, it is. This property is unique, like the one we had earlier. It's built at an angle and you have a flat property line like this. So any building is going to go this way versus a normal property, which is square and square, they're going out this way. This one's built sideways with a square property. That
Yeah.
is going to create some unique challenges. So that's
Yeah.
the idea. Anyway, I think the board, based on where we're at, I think we're okay to move forward. So thank you, Jason. Any questions or comments, or does someone want to make a motion here?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Noel seconded Ms. Dorf's motion to approve. Any other questions, comments? Okay, if not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, Jason, you are approved. Just go ahead and work with the city and staff, her team, and make sure everything's permitted correctly, all of that stuff. A lot of times people don't go back to the city and they just start going and they get themselves into problems. So keep working with the city and we appreciate your time.
Yeah, we'll be seeing stuff again on Wednesday, maybe, for the
Yes,
historical
I
landmark.
staff that commission as well, so you'll see me.
Yes, okay.
All right, thank you so much.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, let's move on to our last one. We're doing okay here. Appeal 22-028, Keith, here we go, Verstegen. On behalf of Europharma Inc., property owner proposes an expansion of a paved area. Let's take it away, Steph.
So generally speaking, when we're doing variances, there are 4 things that are specific in our zoning code. This one's a little bit different because it's in our I-43 Business Park Protective Covenants, which is indicated within our zoning code, but that's what we're varying today. So I have that listed here for that, for the record. The property is located on Challenger Drive. The city used to own a piece of this property, has since sold it over to this, they've been joined. There was a recent building expansion that was done on site. So showed here, proposed addition, existing building. I believe that this is finished, but the applicant can speak to that. Once they did their paving, this was all approved. They realized that they are doing a lot more driving on this than they were attending to with the semi-traffic. So they're getting a lot of ruts and other messes, excuse me. So these are the photos that they had submitted showing that turning radius and that what the damage they're doing to their property. The request is to expand this paved area, and I believe down to a 0 setback, but they would need to confirm that. Shown here on the site plan.
Okay. I think I've got my bearings. Any questions for Steph on this, everybody? Okay, let's go ahead and hear from the applicant. Who is on the call to present this? Is that, oh, I see Keith. Hi,
Yep.
Keith.
Yep. Hi there. Hello, everybody. I'm
How'd
Keith.
how'd I do on the last name?
You nailed it. I was impressed. So very good. So,
All right.
I'm Keith Verstegen. I am with Keller Builds, and I am on the call representing Europharma. And so they have asked us to look into helping them solve this problem they've got. You know, as their business has grown, it appears that the size of the trucks that service their property have grown as well. I don't know if you saw the pictures there, but the rig is fairly long. And so the trucks are damaging the lawn area repeatedly. And so we're proposing that we be allowed to pave in the setback area, extend the curb out to the edge of the property line. And, you know, we would be replacing that curb out there to deter, you know, any further encroachment. But we feel pretty strongly that that would resolve this problem and, you know, keep them from having to repair their lawn on a regular basis or have ruts in it all the time. So I did contact the neighboring property, which is, it shows up as Hanson, but it's actually, excuse me one second, while I get the name. It's actually Port City Bakery, which is alive and kicking. And so I did call and then email subsequently to Bill over there, and he replied. I don't know if you guys got that email, if that got forwarded or not.
No, it was sent to me. It was a letter of support.
Okay, but
Okay.
that would be the only neighboring property that would be impacted by this potentially, and they were fine with it. So.
Okay. Thank you for reaching out, by the way. A lot of people don't take the initiative there, so thank you for that.
So, well, thank you for Jim for the discussion and helping me do that. So.
Oh, was that a Jim advice there? That's
That was
the board helping us out there. Good job, buddy.
Yep.
Any comments? Thank you for that. Any questions for the applicant?
It's essentially, you're just going to extend the curb back to the same to the, like the edge of the parking area that's next to it, right? So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I could probably show you.
I was out there yesterday, so I'm just visualizing it. So you're basically just gonna go as far back as the parking is right now.
Yeah, yep,
Okay.
that's correct.
Any other questions for the applicant? I'd be remiss not to then call upon our former board member and current Alder Hutchinson and offer his thoughts or comments.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm in support of this application. I had reached out and asked if they had called the neighbor, and they did after our conversation, which then suffices any concern I had. They seem to be a up and growing company, as he said, with the trucks getting bigger. There's only so much you can do, and I think they're proposing something that's logical, will solve the tearing up of the grass. And with the neighbor being satisfied, I think it's a logical way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Thanks for being here too. Okay, I see Mr. Leroy on the call. Do you have any thoughts, comments? You're just here to hang out with us since you're always here.
Great. Sorry about that. Just a quick talk with staff here. I'll meet you guys here in a moment once this is done. So.
Okay, all right, cool. Anybody else on the call that wants to speak for or against this application, this appeal? Okay, all right, discussion, everyone, how are we feeling? I have one question that I want to ask, but I'll let you guys go first, or I can throw my thing out there.
Throw your thing out there.
My thought is sometimes we approve things, and again, I always like, Noel's really good about adding like certain things to it. Do we care if this is a specific use thing? You know, because if we approve it, it's permanent. If the building sells, the next person gets it that way. Is there anything that we want to add? You know, you hate to lose green space, or is this something where you're looking at it? It's going to be a shipping use, and we might as well just keep it there. So that was my question when I looked at this, going over it. Do we want to add anything on the back end?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I mean, it's an industrial park. I mean, it's unfortunate they miscalculated that they can't get a 53-foot semi in there. There's only one door anyway. If they ever add a door, they're going to need the setback anyway. Anybody who might buy the building is probably going to need more than one door. Eurofarm is a little unique in the fact that its products are not particularly bulky, you know, so they're not doing multiple semis. So I mean, I don't see that the long term that we need to put any extra covenants on that, or any extra, you know, restrictions.
Okay, thanks. Noel, I think you were jumping in there too. You agree with Stephen?
I was going to say something similar, that with the use as it is, anybody else who uses that same property is going to have a similar, you know, need probably. And anybody else who would redevelop the property, say it changed hands at some point downstream, they're going to redo the whole thing maybe anyway. So I don't think we need to guard against, you know, creating some future problem.
Okay, I don't have any other thoughts. I'm inclined to approve this, so I'm not sure where everybody else is at, but I'll go around the horn. Ms. Dorff, any thoughts, comments before we take a motion?
I'm inclined to approve.
Okay, Mr. Hoy,
I'd be inclined to approve.
Stephen?
Yeah, I'm inclined to approve.
All right, Noel, same thing. All right, all motion is in order, I think.
I move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Oh, he beat you, Tom, sorry. So I got a motion by Stephen and a second by Noel to approve the appeal as listed here. So any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, great. Again, Keith, thanks for being on the call. I appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out. Mr. Hutchinson, or Alder Hutchinson, I should say. Great to see you, buddy. Thanks for coming back. We hope to see you more. And again, thank you for the feedback to the applicant about the learnings that you've had on this board and helping it be a better process for us. So we appreciate that. Keep going with the other alders. We appreciate it,
bet.
buddy.
You bet.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, have a great night there. All right, that's the agenda, but we still have people here, and Mr. Leroy said he's gonna be with us. Steph, what's next?
I want to introduce John, our new zoning administrator.
Oh, no way.
Hi, everyone. Yeah. Which side's here? Yeah.
Yeah, so he will be taking over Board of Appeals staffing. I will go back to being ominously in the background doing your gatekeeping online. So John will be doing,
So,
you know,
we like
login.
seeing you.
I mean, maybe I'll keep my camera on now that I know you guys, but he will be our new zoning administrator. So I don't know if John, you want to introduce yourself at all? I think almost everyone here knows you.
Yeah, I think I know most folks on here. So John Leroy, new zoning administrator, was in front of this board plenty of times here in a previous life, working at Mowen Associates.
Yes.
So very happy to take on the mantle that Paul had in the past, and Stephanie's been taking on extra work here in the past few months, and happy to be aboard.
Hey, congrats.
Good to have
man.
you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I might occasionally like, all right, John from Mowen Associates, can you just got to fix it, you know? So that's great,
I
man.
had
It's great
trouble
to see
here
you.
answering the phone and being like,
Yeah.
it's not John from City Green Bay. So I hear you.
I love it, man. Congratulations. That's awesome. Welcome aboard. You'll do a great
Welcome
job. I know
aboard.
with the work that you always came in and presented as an applicant, you were always super thorough. You did your work. You understood the why. So having someone at the city that's done a lot of that work is going to be great for the city. So, and again, for you, I think as the chair, and I think I could speak on behalf of the board, our goal is to try and make this as painless as possible and try and improve the process. So if there's suggestions you have for this meeting, or, you know, wanting to get more involved with this process, Paul took a very neutral stance. I know I've watched videos of other boards in the country because they're on YouTube. So I've watched them to see how they function. And some planning people take a little bit more stronger stance and offer recommendations. Paul was very neutral there. I know in the past we had someone prior to Paul who was basically telling the board what to do, which we don't want to get into. So just keep that in mind. We want to get this process great for the city, for the community. And if there's anything you've learned in your process, let us know and we'll discuss it at this point in the meeting. So
Fantastic. And just to let everybody know here, it's been a pleasure to go ahead and watch this board conduct, ask thorough questions, and find the evidence to support their decisions. So keep it up. I like it, but I'll be in touch with anything that we can improve on.
I love it. Thank you. Very good. What else do we have, Steph?
I got nothing. I see there are some other people on. I'm not sure what for. So maybe-
Stephanie, can I ask a question? I'm sorry that we are late. We are the team that wanted to discuss the Planet Fitness scooters and Arby's signage, and I was given 5:30 as a start time. So my apologies. I just got on at 5:30. I'm really sorry about that. But I also have client on with me from HJ Martin. Bill Rosnow is on with me as well. So I don't know if there's any opportunity to circle back to our second spot on the agenda. You're probably all wondering where we were.
Can we move to unhold that item and discuss it now?
I'll second that motion.
Oh, you guys
Okay.
are amazing.
All right. So I have a motion on the floor to undo a hold that we had previously. Any discussion on that? Do I need to list which one it was for the record? It was the appeal 22-021. All right, all those in favor of unholding the item, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody oppose? Okay, great. All right, so let's, Steph, if you don't mind, I don't know, we're gonna go through this process. Are you able to pull up that option and take us through it again? I don't know if we need to, because we kind of, does anybody on the board need Steph to queue it up? We kind of did that before we took action.
I can get the
You can go
maps up
straight-
at least. That could be helpful.
Yeah, and then we'll jump straight to the applicant's case, if that's okay.
Yeah, I don't really have much information beyond this anyway. I'm not sure where the existing sign is, if that one will be moved and then another one placed. So this is just for reference what the site plan will be once these buildings are done. So this might be helpful with her giving her case anyway.
Great, okay. Who is presenting for the applicant today? Is that you? Is it?
Yes, my name is Trisha Harold and I am with Elevate 97.
Okay, thank you, Trisha. Go ahead and take us through it.
Okay, so the Arby's is moving over to this side of the street. Planet Fitness already exists there, and Scooters is moving in as well. The existing Planet Fitness sign that lived there has been taken down, so there is no pylon or street sign for Planet Fitness anymore. I believe it was like a 64 square foot sign. We're proposing this new monument sign. And if you go back to the map, I have it highlighted in yellow where it would be placed, so as to direct traffic to get it going through the whole space and direct traffic back to Planet Fitness, because there will be no Planet Fitness sign on the street. So this would denote that these are the tenants in this area, in this space, and it would help the traffic flow around from each spot to each spot. If that makes sense.
Cool. Once you got you on here, John, I'm going to put you on the spot, man. We're going to jump right to you. Do you have any questions or thoughts on this?
No slack, Tommy.
Right.
Let's go.
To note for this one, I should probably decline because I've been part of these plans here in the past with both these properties. In my former life.
True. It says Mao and Associates on there.
Yeah. So
okay,
I should decline on that.
Okay. Dang.
So where
I throw a fastball and you dodged it, man. That's all right. Well, great. Any other comments from the other person on the call or thoughts, or he just here to be a witness?
Bill, do you have any comments to add?
No, I don't. What we're attempting to do here is to have consistency along West Mason with some of the signage. And it's gonna kind of be a character, kind of a monument sign, which carries through to the locations, both Arby's and Scooters with a retaining wall. And what we're trying to do is have a little consistency in architecture there and kind of beautify the whole front businesses on West Mason, yet still trying to key in Planet Fitness.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions from the board for the applicant? Yes, Noel, go ahead.
Reading it sounded like we're talking about having two signs. And you pointed out the one that was highlighted. Is there going to be two pedestal signs on Mason? Is that what you're asking for?
No, we are only asking for that monument sign in the area where the yellow is highlighted. And I believe, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, Scooters and Arby's will have their own smaller sign or their own sign for their spaces. So Planet Fitness would be left out because they're not on the main drag.
Because you took down their sign?
Yeah, their sign does not fit into the space anymore. With the plans of the architectural features of the build out.
Steps to be clear. So the issue is because it's one sign, but it has three signs in it. And that's why it's saying multiple signs. Is that the idea? And that's why it's needing a variance? Like, what's the specific variance?
No, we were under the impression that there would be more than one sign on a parcel. So from what I'm hearing right now, the sign that we have in front of us is one of those signs, at that Arby's and Scooters may put additional ones. But for me, I only care about it's one per parcel.
Right. I'll jump in for informational purposes. If you go back to that drawing, you're going to see three signs on there. One's highlighted, and you'll see a sign then for both in front of one in front of Scooters and one in front of Arby's.
Why is the sign for Arby's already there? Okay, and what do you need the extra sign for? Why don't you just take that Arby's sign down and put this one in, then you don't need a variance at all. I don't understand why Arby's needs two signs.
Are you considering a pylon one of those signs? Because there is no monument type sign
Yeah.
in front of Arby's. That's a pylon sign.
Okay, so this is the variance request then. So since the sign already exists, having more than one,
Right.
any freestanding sign, so monument, pylon, whatever else you can think of. This is what requires it because it's an additional sign.
But it's one that's at the entry point to guide the traffic in, right?
Right, and it's at a lower, so as you're driving by, you see all of them kind of in one, and lower because the pylon will be much higher for the scooters and the RVs. And
Okay.
you would not see Planet Fitness at all because it's tucked back behind
Or is
the,
this not a drive?
All right, so
Right.
I want to get my bearings here. Steph, if you can stay on that real quick. On the left,
Sorry.
it's okay. On the left side, that's a scooter sign right there. Okay, and then obviously the highlighted one, which is going to be 3 signs in one, which will be 3 different tenants in one. And then if you go to the right, there's an RV sign.
yes.
And so I'm up to speed here now. Okay, is the scooters and the RVs considered 2 different lots, or is it all one lot?
All different. There are 3 separate lots in play here.
3 separate lots. So what we're dealing with is on the RV's lot, there's already an RV sign. And so now there's a second sign that includes all 3 businesses. That's where that highlighted one is going to be on the RV's lot.
I'm getting just as caught up as you all are right now. So yes, that's why I'm as well.
Yeah. I mean, I live in this district. That's why I was kind of wondering, because I drive by this regularly. I don't understand why you can't either take the one sign down or modify it. I don't understand why you need a variance for this.
Well, we want to be able to articulate that Planet Fitness is behind
Right.
this development.
That's great. Then take down the other RV sign. I mean, I'm not hearing a reason why you need to have both of these. I sympathize and I want Planet Fitness to have roadside signage. I think that's only fair to them, although they are pretty visible from Mason Street. But you're adding an extra sign, and you said that the one on the right isn't even put up yet, so why you need this variance?
We certainly want to be in a position that there's still another parcel next to Planet Fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And this sign would be able to be modified
As tenants come and
because
go.
there probably wouldn't be a good avenue to put out another sign for a business that may come at some point in the future next to and share the Toys R Us building with Planet Fitness.
Right.
Okay. I still don't see why you need 2 signs. You've got one that can hold 3. You could easily make that signage big enough to hold 4 or 5.
This sign is made for that. So we do have it modifiable in order
Okay.
to add a 4th tenant.
That doesn't really help your case as to why you need another sign.
We're trying to have it be a destination space for that whole
Yeah.
area. So that
No,
you
I
can
mean,
back
don't
into
get me
the-
wrong. I really approve of what you guys are doing there. That's been a dead zone for a long time. I just I don't see why you need to violate city code or get an exception to it when you simply have to not put the one sign up.
Simply not put which one up.
So my understanding is if we're facing the RVs and the scooters on the far right side, to the right of the proposed sign, is that sign physically there yet? It is not. And then you're proposing the one you need the variance for is in the middle, and then scooters got a sign on their property. So my suggestion is, since you haven't built the sign on the right-hand side, just build the one in the center. You don't need 2 signs. You don't have I don't see a case for you having 2 signs.
I can see it, Stephen, I guess. And,
Okay.
I don't know that we need to debate that point, necessarily.
Well, I mean,
They don't want to make the case for the applicant, but if I look at those signs for scooters and RVs, I can imagine those tenants those occupants of that space kind of having as part of their deal, they get an identity sign for their business.
mhm.
And so there needs to be a separate sign for the business in the back, because Arby's isn't going to want to have Arby's and, hey, behind us Planet
Yeah.
Fitness as their business sign. And you know, maybe by putting the scooters and the Arby's readers in that, on the side light of that Planet Fitness sign, maybe they're actually hurting their case here by doing that, because it could have been like, and bonus tenant A and bonus tenant B or something like that. And like you're seeing something on the signage for that building, which really is a frontage
Mhm.
property on West Mason, even though now we've just put two outlets in front of it
Right.
and created a wall between that and the building behind.
Right, but I mean,
Yes,
it's a
I get it.
self-created problem. If there's a problem with the amount of signage that they're getting on the proposed Tombstone sign, I mean, the only variance we're going here is whether they can have more than one. They
Yeah.
could make that sign bigger, they could make them all equal, so they all have equal billing. This is a self-created problem. They don't need to have two signs. They can just make the one that they proposed bigger, and they don't even need a variance then.
Yeah, let me clarify, because I think you guys are hitting on the same thing from different ways, and it's making me kind of go, wait a second. So, Noel, you mentioned this, is that if by having scooters and Arby's there, Stephen, right? If it just said Planet Fitness, would
Mhm.
you feel the same way about your concerns? If
Oh,
it was
my-
just a street sign that was advertising Planet Fitness, which is behind, because they don't have any street frontage currently signage.
Right. They took it down for this project.
Right. So what I'm saying is, because it's duplicating scooters and Arby's in the current proposed design, is
Mhm.
because for me, that's where I was like, why do they need two signs for the business, which is right there? I don't know. If we as the
I mean, that's
board-
kind of where I'm going. I mean, they're
Right.
adding two signs, but I'm not hearing any logic as to why there needs to be two signs, why that monument sign, just one sign, can't service all three businesses. Because my understanding is the purpose of this ordinance is to keep our city streets from being festooned with signs. Now, I do support local businesses, and I do want them to have sufficient visibility and sufficient, especially on that stretch where there hasn't been a lot of activity. Because I really do approve of having all this new stuff there, especially when I live in this neighborhood. But I mean, I'm not hearing a justification to on a 3-point justification. I'm not seeing it. I don't see any reason to grant a variance for this.
Okay. Hold on one second. Steph wants to jump in for, looks maybe some clarification. Go ahead, Steph.
Yes, just to clarify, this sign is allowed for Planet Fitness because it is part of a monument sign tenant panel sign. It would not be allowed on its own because then it is off-premise advertising. So because it is part of something that has multiple tenant panels, that's why it's allowed, because it's campus identifying. So we wouldn't be able to only do a Planet Fitness sign anyway.
Right, and I get that. It just, there's another sign on the right. I mean, that doesn't really make any difference, right?
Oh, I'm
That
with you,
doesn't
Steve. I
change-
just wanted to make sure in case we went down the rabbit hole of we'll just put Planet Fitness. that
Oh,
won't
no.
go on by our code.
Yeah, no. I don't want more
That was,
signs.
she was clarifying for me, I think, because to me, that's where I was headed. Okay, Alder or Ms. Dorf?
Yeah, I just, if I'm going down the street and I'm looking for a roast beef sandwich, I need to see the Arby's sign. I need to see that big sign. I do. And I like the idea of having these smaller signs to direct the traffic. I think it's a safety issue. And it's an issue where you're not going to be having people all going in one side or all going in the other side. So I think there's a public need for the clarification that these monument signs provide. And I really, an Arby's, and I don't know what Scooters is actually, but
That's
I know
coffee.
It's a coffee shop.
Oh, a coffee shop.
Drive
I mean, I
through
went
coffee.
out there, but I couldn't really tell what it was. So, okay, coffee
Yeah.
shop. Okay.
So, I mean, the
They
entrances
need
are,
identification.
right, but the entrances are past, the entrance isn't where the sign is.
Right.
The entrances are past that between between what used to be Best Buy and is now, I think, a Goodwill. That's where you pull in. You know, there's
Yeah,
a
so
single
you would-
main entrance that goes through there with a stoplight.
Yeah, depending on which way you're coming on Mason, you either enter
Yeah.
before the signs or after the signs.
Yeah,
The
I mean, you can't
signs
really
are
miss it.
here, and the driveway's here.
But it kind of gives you an indication of what's in there, right?
I mean, it's not
street
like you
level.
can't see the Arby's right there. I mean, and it's not like they won't have a sign. They just don't have to have two of them. Is my point. They don't need two. They can serve all masters with one sign. And I don't want to hand out variances when they can't justify it on the 3-point test. You know, I mean, that was in all that training. I mean, I don't see, there's no unique property things here. There's no,
Yeah, the only case that I could make that I don't necessarily know if I've heard, but in thinking about it for me is, you know, this used to be one property behind and then parking and then streets. And so a sign for that would work because it's one business, right? Parking and then street. In this case, the way the area is being developed is that there's now two properties in front of the other one. And so the unique characteristics of this property, not the property that's being applied for, which is why my head's kind of going, oh, is that it's being blocked by the two properties that are in the front, you know, and so the building behind doesn't have anything besides the building itself that's telling people, hey, Planet Fitness is right here. And I would think that they would need some sort of, I would want them to have, I think, some sort of street presence saying, hey, Planet Fitness is here.
I agree.
I just don't see how they get there without doing it on this property. And that's why I think it's
I
interesting.
agree. I'm not saying they shouldn't put up this monument sign. I'm saying they shouldn't put up the one on the right. They don't need two signs to do this. And the way the elevation is there, you can see almost the entire Planet Fitness over the top of the other two buildings because that's on a, you know, that's the way the land goes. My point is I don't have any objections to the monument sign itself. I think it's a good idea, but there's another one that they're planning on putting in up the street on the same property. Why? And nobody's been able to answer that question so far.
Stephen, you make a good point about the elevation. We dropped the elevation of Arby's. If you recall what that Toys R Us parking lot looked like, we dropped that elevation 8 feet.
Yeah.
Make sure that we had some visibility to tenants that were also part of the development. So that didn't just happen that way. And that's why you're able to see Planet Fitness to a certain degree. And there was a sign there for Planet Fitness, but certainly not of the character of the monument sign that we would like to put up.
Right. And I mean, it's not the monument sign I disagree with. It's that you're going to have two signs that say the same thing on the same property. And I don't understand why you need two. You could put up the monument sign and you haven't installed the other one yet, if my understanding is correct. So you could do this without a variance.
Yeah, but a monument sign compared to a pylon sign, that's kind of.
So put in a pylon sign instead of a monument sign. You don't need two.
In your opinion?
In my opinion.
Yeah, I'm looking at this a lot of different ways too, as I'm seeing it. I do think that we've got an oddball property here with the way it's laid out. We've got, you know, folks driving along the edge of a parcel that, you know, is got multiple pieces on it now and multiple businesses. If I had my druthers, I'd probably lay this out with a pedestal, not a pedestal sign, but like a taller sign at the drive lane with all three businesses on it, maybe featuring Planet Fitness the most, and then having pylon signs or the type of sign we're talking about now on Mason Street for Arby's and for the scooters, you know, so that you just got the one tall one where you actually need to turn in for all the businesses. But again, that would still be two signs on one parcel. It'd just be on the scooters parcel instead of on the Arby's parcel. So I don't know that any way looking at this is going to get us kind of where we want to go, but I don't need any more information from the petitioner to make a call. I guess that's, maybe we should just debate some more ourselves in terms of which way we want to take this.
You got some thoughts? I've kind of jumped in with some questions and stuff. You got any thoughts on this?
I just think kind of going along Barb's line as far as the visual aid that the sign would be, you kind of separate some of the businesses, and it's easier as a customer to find the place when it is identifiable as opposed to looking at a placard with a bunch of businesses. So. That's all. I take Stephen's point about sign proliferation, but at the same time, Green Bay's put itself in some pretty unique positions.
Well, we've been involved in, I think, getting this project here with some of our approvals. I think, we've approved some variance requests in terms of how the property itself is laid out, if I remember correctly. Ms. Dorf, do you have any thoughts?
Still have the same thoughts I had before.
Okay, just going around the horn. There's a lot of good discussion. I think Stephen's bringing up some good points. I think what I'm trying to figure out is, when you have like a business park kind of area that is like I don't want to compare it to like a mall or whatever, but like if you have an area where it's like many businesses in one area, there is sometimes a sign that talks about all the businesses that are contained, and then you drive by and Chick-fil-A has its own sign. In my neck of the woods in California, it was like a donut place that had its own sign, but you had one big sign that also had everything listed on it. I think what they're trying to do is accomplish something similar to that. So I'm inclined to approve. I think, Stephen, you made some really good points. I think there's probably some thoughts that could have maybe started differently, but I think maybe the projects kind of come together in a way that lends itself to this. So I'm inclined to approve it. I think I don't like a lot of signs. I think Stephen is making a good point that you don't have to put up the other ones, but I would find it hard pressed to believe that. I can't speak on this and it wasn't presented, but I don't know if Arby's would be, as a corporation, would be pumped about having their main sign not there. You know what I mean? Like I would think.
Well, again, I'm not suggesting that they don't, I'm not suggesting that they don't have signage. I'm just saying that a modicum of planning would get you what you want without any variance. And that's really my objection here. You have two signs, you don't need two signs, and it doesn't fit the 3-point test. So if you just put a pylon sign that has all three businesses on it, you get everything you want without a variance, and you don't have to listen to me anymore.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know. For me, I feel like the unique property piece, I could debate it a bit, with the property behind and them needing something. And no matter where you put it on that street, it's going to be in a different property spot. To your point, you need to then remove the other ones, and you've got one that has three others. But if we say that no here, then Scooters is already going to have its sign up no matter what, because that's not part of a variance. So
But
Scooters is going to have
the other sign isn't up yet. I guess that's kind of why I'm pushing on this. Nothing, the other sign isn't built. So, and neither is this
What
one.
I'm saying is that I agree. So this is happening as proposed on the Arby's lot, right?
Yes.
The Scooters one that's just down is on a different property, in my understanding.
Yes.
Is that correct, Steph? So the Scooters could have its own unique sign. Then you've got no to Arby's, right? They can't have an additional sign, but they get a small sign. So Scooters can have 1 and 2, and that's to code. There's no code problem there, right?
But
Whereas
my suggestion was then the sign that's being proposed doesn't have to be that way. It could be bigger. It could be different. It could be a pylon sign.
I agree, and they can choose to do that depending on how we vote. But my point is they could still put up the Scooter sign and not have to be here, and we can't tell them they can't.
Right.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I'm not concerned about Scooters.
Them,
I'm asking them to not put up two signs on one property because that's city code, and they don't have a legitimate reason to do it because it doesn't pass the 3-point test.
All right. Noel, Barb, we've had some good discussion. Any other points by the applicants or anybody else have anything before we kind of get to this voting spot? Because I think I know where Stephen's going, but I don't necessarily have a good temperature on the rest of the board, but I think this is going to be one of those split votes and we'll see where it lands. Is there any other comments or thoughts by anybody before we kind of get to a potential motion here? Okay. All right. So who wants to make a motion here?
I'll make a motion to approve as requested.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve the variance as requested with consideration of a lot of the feedback and thoughts, and there's that. Any other discussion before we take a vote? Okay. All those in favor of approving the variance as requested, please say aye. Aye.
I,
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Thank you, Stephen. And I appreciate the discourse and the passion. I
Yeah,
love it when
yeah,
the board gets,
I-
we're usually in unison, so I like it when we're not on the same page. I think it's
I,
good. It makes us all better.
In my professional job, I'm a competitive intelligence analyst, so I argue for a living.
Oh, I love it. We need to go get drinks then. I love it. All right, so the motion carries to approve. Thank you for your time and thank you for coming to it. Again, we can't tell you what to do, but again, there was some good feedback here by concerned citizens and people that are live in the district, right? So while we can't tell you what to do, maybe so there's some discussion or competitive, what was it you called it, Stephen?
Competitive
Competitive what?
intelligence. Competitive
Intelligence that can come from this meeting and maybe discuss and maybe the plans change. But as of right now, it's approved and good luck.
And I want to reiterate, I am really enthusiastic about the projects. It is a huge upgrade for that area that's been somewhat a desolate parking lot and a dead Cub Foods for a long time. So.
Well, and also being able to go to Arby's and not have to plan, to spend 5 minutes trying to get out of the driveway.
Yeah, or potentially die.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that'll be
I'm
good.
just bummed that they're not keeping that big old hat sign, are they?
That really
So
is kind of a
sad. That's
bummer.
like, that belongs in a museum, man. I had one right around the corner from me in Southern California. They don't have those big giant signs anymore. So when I moved here, I was like, look, there it is. So tell them to keep it, put it in a shrink ray or something and put it in somewhere. I don't know. It's cool. All right. Thank you for your time. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. And thank you for listening to the debate. And again, if you want to consider some of the comments in your design, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great night. All right.
Good night.
Well, I think we've covered everybody on the call, so I don't think there's anybody lingering. Thanks, John, for being the surprise at the end. Is there any other procedural items that we want to discuss? I do want to throw out, for me as the chair, I think these calls are super convenient, but I do miss the opportunity to be in person. So I know that I think I got outvoted on this last time, but I am more apt to make this more of an in-person thing. I know COVID's in a weird spot right now, so I know that maybe changes from a health perspective, a decision there, but I love the in-person stuff. So I'm gonna always bring that up. Go ahead, Ms. Dorr.
I know that, by ordinance now, because we passed this at council, that we should not be meeting in person until the rooms are equipped to be hybrid. And I believe maybe there's a couple committees that are doing that. I'm not sure. I don't know that for a fact, but we shouldn't be. After September 30th is when I heard that the rooms that we would use may all be hybrid. But we are following ordinance by meeting like this right now. And we shouldn't be in person right now, because that's what was decided at council. So we're doing the right thing. Staff, right?
Yes, there are a few commissions who have gone, like our redevelopment authority is back in person, no virtual option. I'm personally opposed to that, so I won't be promoting that anywhere. Our landmarks commission is hybrid, but that's only because nobody else has scheduled council chambers on Wednesday afternoons. So Mondays are pretty booked. So the idea is that if all of our meeting rooms can have the recording information that council has, we'd be able to just freely go back as we want to. That doesn't mean that a hybrid option is not available. It just means that we would have to be out of the room by a certain time, which I don't know is very feasible for this commission in particular.
Oh man, no, that's great. You got a deadline.
I mean, if you want to, I'd be kicking your asses out though. I'd be like, it's 4:45, whatever.
Tommy, stop talking,
Yeah.
Tommy. Let's go.
However, our room upstairs will be one of the first rooms to get that equipment. So 604 would be like a new meeting place for us instead of doing council chambers. So once that's available, we can certainly bring it back up on the agenda for discussion. However, if you guys are all dying to do hybrid, we would maybe just have to, adjust.
Let's just wait till you got the equipment and go as soon as it's
We really
installed.
should.
And I think
Yeah.
we should offer the public the option to do hybrid. If we have constituents who are immunocompromised, they may not want to physically come.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
We're
I'll
there.
keep bringing it up, or I won't bring it up anymore until there's even an option to do it with the equipment.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind. But I just think there's something about just the debate, the decorum, like the willingness to run it and get the right people to speak, and bringing people together to have uncomfortable conversations sometimes lends itself to, I think, a better community. So anyway, I think there's like intrinsic value to doing it, but conveniently, I understand. So,
And Tommy, you
any
do a
other-
great job. You do an absolutely great job
You
of
do,
doing
Tommy.
Oh,
that
thank you.
virtually. And you make sure that you hear from everyone and everyone's voice is heard. And this is great. This works out really well. And it's going to be nice if a person's on vacation or not in town,
Thank
they
you.
could still
Thumbs up down
be
there.
here, you know?
Yeah,
So-
I agree. There's a lot of benefits from this hybrid idea. So I think it's good. Thank you for that. And we got to see your dog too, which was great.
Yeah, he wanted to come up and see you guys.
Yeah, I love it. All right, anything else? I do think the 4:30 time worked well. I mean, I'm able to go home and have dinner with my own family. So thank you for that change there. And Steph, I don't know if that happened. It could have been on their end, but if possible, just double check to make sure there's not maybe a form email or a form missed for the 5:30 start. I'm sure you didn't, but just in case, because they missed it. Maybe it was from the previous
bet it
meeting that
was.
they got.
That's
But
fine.
just, it doesn't hurt to double check. I know we have form emails that we send out that we update. We're like, oh, we missed that one. So just, I think a double check there would be good.
Will do.
But I think 4:30 works great. Okay.
So the floor is still open.
Yep. So
Move
motion
to close the
we got-
floor.
The
there we go.
second,
All right, we got a motion to close the floor. All those in favor say aye.
I,
I,
Any opposed? All right. And then we adjourn. Before we adjourn, again, welcome again, John. Steph, I will say before we do anything, it's been a pleasure having you run these, and it's been fun to see you beyond your just your name.
Just
So
my name.
I'll ask that you make an appearance here and there and not go back to just words.
I'm
We
the
like seeing.
backup. So whenever John's on vacation, you will be stuck with me. So
Uh-oh, we're already in that spot, John. They're watching your vacation time already, buddy. Watch
You work
out.
for the city, you can't go on vacation anymore, so.
that's it.
Okay, great. Well, again, thank you. And again, I will also say to the board, thank you for all the discussion, and Tom, the thoughts on email. That was an interesting one when we got a lot of communication, and I got some stuff personally directly to my business email. So I appreciate Steph, you handling that, and and Barb bringing it up so we can clarify it. Thank you to everybody for that. So thank you for your service and being part of this.
Thank you too.
move to
Okay.
adjourn.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Move to adjourn. Do we have a second to adjourn? We can't leave yet.
I
Oh.
second.
All right, we got a second to adjourn. All right, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye.
Hi.
Hi.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, have a great night, everybody. Enjoy dinner with your families.
Take care.